Viktor Frankl is a renowned Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist. He endured the horrors of the slaughter in concentration camps, yet he emerged with the unwavering belief in the human spirit's resilience. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he explained that finding meaning in suffering is essential to human existence. Frankl noted that his mental toughness and that of those around him was rooted in the ability to maintain a sense of purpose and hope during the bleakest conditions. And his success lay in this profound insight that our response to life's challenges is actually a choice. It is that choice which makes life meaningful, even in the depths of despair. So today we are embarking on a journey through the landscape of mental toughness, a trait that shapes the way we face life's challenges and opportunities. What gives some people the power to stay calm under pressure? How do they remain committed when obstacles arise? What allows them to see challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities? And where does the confidence come from to just face life head on? Well, these 4 questions touch the 4 core elements of mental toughness in psychology. Those elements are control, where we master our inner steering wheel; commitment, our drive to see things through; challenge, how we turn obstacles into stepping stones; and confidence, which is the bedrock of our inner strength. And when you put all of these together, you create a more resilient psychology to deal with life's problems and to also have a more positive outlook on life, where you not only feel that you can deal with problems, but it also opens you to recognize and seize opportunities. So hello and welcome to the Growth Mindset Podcast with me, Samuel Webster Harris. As always, diving into the psychology of self-improvement and today's episode on the science of mental toughness. So stay tuned for after the break, where we will unpack these elements and learn how to fortify our mental resilience and uncover the secrets of building an unshakable mindset. Doesn't that sound good? Yes.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
Right, so I promised you the science of how to build an unshakable mindset, so let's get into it. I'm sure you've heard people talk about things like grit, inner strength, maybe even self-efficacy, which are all related to the concept of mental toughness. But it is definitely more than just the British mentality of a stiff upper lip where you just need to pull up your bootstraps. I am British and my British accent is awful. I am sorry. Anyway, we can specifically build resilience across the 4 main areas of mental fortitude, and each of these has 2 subsections. So let's start with the quadrant of control. This encompasses 2 elements, life control and emotional control. When you receive feedback, even if it perhaps comes a little harshly, do you sometimes respond defensively or even with anger, possibly attacking the critic or denying the validity of the feedback itself? I'm sure we have all done that sometimes. However, a person with a growth mindset and high control can respond thoughtfully to any criticism. They can consider its validity and just use it as an opportunity for growth without taking any criticism or feedback personally. And when we study the quadrant of control, you'll see it has life control and emotional control. Under life control, that refers to the perception that one has the ability to personally make things happen. It's about feeling that you are the driver of your own destiny rather than a passenger. Without life control, you might feel helpless or powerless in the face of life events, such as bad feedback. You might struggle to make decisions due to the fear of consequences. A great way to lose control in your life is to blame external factors for personal challenges instead of taking responsibility wherever you can. Now, of course, it's very relieving to feel like something is not your fault, but that also takes away your ability to do anything. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find your strength. And the Stoics always fought to stay rationally aware of everything that was in their control and focus on taking responsibility for just that. You can't control the weather, but you can plan for it. Epictetus said that things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, whatever are not our action. I think a brilliant example of life control could be Helen Keller. Despite losing both her sight and her hearing at 19 months old, she still learned to communicate. She learned the hand signal for water whilst her teacher poured water on her other hand. And from there, she then slowly learned the entire alphabet spelled into her hand letter by letter. This is all without seeing anything or hearing anything. And she eventually went on to become a renowned author, activist, and even a lecturer advocating for the rights of the disabled. Someone else with significant life control was Beethoven, who continued to write symphonies after he lost his hearing. So it's definitely possible to keep mindful of what the things are that we can control without blaming everything else that we can't control, like our health even. And now onto the emotional component of control. Emotional control is the ability to manage emotions and remain effective in stressful situations. This involves self-regulation skills to keep disruptive emotions and impulses in check. Without good emotional control, you'll have difficulty managing anger or managing frustration, and it can lead to perhaps inappropriate outbursts, of course, but just also becoming easily stressed or overwhelmed in situations. The Stoics tried to handle emotional control by practicing self-awareness and detachment. They believed that emotions stem from our judgments, and that by changing our judgments, we can change our own emotional responses. A properly trained mind does not allow disturbances within itself, and in essence, we can choose to feel harmed. An example of this would be that we all do know that children can be very annoying and difficult, but a parent with high emotional control will always be able to maintain composure when a child acts out or does something absolutely outrageous. They can address the behavior calmly and constructively, whereas a parent with low emotional control might react harshly, they might yell, they might display anger, which could escalate the situation and model poor emotional regulation for the child. And it's bloody annoying to hear that if you're a parent, because it's super annoying when kids are a nightmare, but your emotions are always within your power to control and decide how you react. And then largely, in summary, for the quadrant of control, it's all about harnessing the power within oneself to influence our own life trajectory, managing our own emotional responses to maintain effectiveness in any situation, and the internal focus is where the Stoics really believed true power and freedom lies. So now onto the quadrant of commitment. We all have things we want to achieve, but the way that we commit to getting there does greatly influence the outcome. With a vague goal of getting fit without a structured plan, sporadic gym visits, maybe a healthy diet sometimes, we'll see little improvement and maybe forget that we're even trying to get fit. Whereas if you set a goal like running a marathon, you have a detailed training program, a regular diet, you make sure you have good sleeping patterns, you'll get exactly where you planned to go. Now, mental toughness when it comes to staying committed is, again, a quadrant that's split into two elements: achievement orientation and goal orientation. In goal orientation, it's about the importance placed on just making plans and goals to provide a direction in life, a North Star. It's not just about setting goals, but setting the direction and then having the determination to reach the end point. I do think it's important to remember it's not just about the end point, but also about the journey. So you do have to set a goal that contains a journey that you will endure and not hate so much that you stop. Otherwise, you'll never get to the end point. And then when you look at the achievement orientation, the other section of the commitment quadrant, this is the drive to meet and surpass standards of excellence. It's the internal compass that directs individuals towards setting and accomplishing their goals, often with a strong sense of purpose and a clear vision for the desired outcomes. Without a high achievement orientation, we can find ourselves setting overly ambitious goals without any realistic plan or benchmarks based on something specific of what's actually going to happen, what's actually going to be achieved. And this means that we'll find ourselves procrastinating and we'll have a lack of follow through on the goals maybe, or just not finding a time when we ever understand when it will get done because it's just too big and ambiguous. And perhaps most damagingly, we can quickly get discouraged in the face of setbacks and failures when we're not really focused on what we should be achieving. Stoics, of course, have some advice here, and they would counsel that focusing on the effort rather than the outcome to emphasize virtue in the performance of one's duties is the true measures of success. But also, when you want to do something, just bloody do the thing and not other stuff. Epictetus said, if you wish to be a writer, write. So someone with an achievement orientation might look at their career, not at specific career milestones. They'll actively seek opportunities for professional development to achieve promotion. And without the achievement orientation, people might remain passive about their career path. They might expect advancement to occur somehow naturally without really actively engaging in it. And they might quickly feel lost and confused at where they're going when they aren't really advancing and they don't know why. Now, in this whole area of commitment, I think there's a huge mistake that people think you can solve everything by setting good goals. Now, ultimately, goals are not a recipe for success in the slightest. If everyone that set the goal of building the next billion-dollar company like Uber, there would be millions upon millions of entrepreneurs who are billionaires, because lots of people have that goal. Of course, not every athlete goes on to win an Olympic gold medal, despite many of them having that goal. So clearly, having a goal does not equal success. And this is why I think the Stoic answer to commitment is much more important. Looking at the Stoic principles here, the emphasis would be on disciplined action, setting goals aligned with one's values, maintaining a focus on personal effort, and measuring achievement based on the amount of effort and improvement, and not just in external success measurements like winning. And I think that's very important. Next, we will be going on to the quadrant of challenge. I'm sure we all know that a hallmark of the growth mindset and stoicism is the love of challenge. The obstacle is the way. Anything worth doing is not easy. If it was easy to get fit and build a business, we'd all be billionaires with six-pack abs. But the nice thing about this is that it shows us that doing hard things, doing challenges, is where you will find success. Abraham Lincoln knew this, and he faced numerous personal and political setbacks, including losing 8 elections and enduring the death of his son. Despite those challenges, he persevered to become one of the most influential presidents of the United States ever, and led the country during the Civil War and the movement to abolish slavery. So the point is that we should be able to take on a challenge. And in the challenge quadrant of mental toughness, that's made up of our risk orientation and our learning orientation. Now, risk orientation involves our willingness to engage with uncertainty, take calculated risks. It reflects a person's comfort with the possibility of failure when trying new things or pursuing an ambitious goal. You could say that Elon Musk has a very high risk orientation. He started Tesla and SpaceX at basically the same time and invested all his money into building them, and that was the first commercial private space company in the world and the first electric car company in the world, both of which were absurd things to do that no one has ever done before and everyone thought would absolutely definitely fail. So there are definitely some good things from being able to have a high risk orientation. Without being able to take risks, we'll avoid opportunities that come our way due to fear of failure or rejection, and we might have excessive amounts of caution which lead us to just stagnate and miss opportunities. However, of course, it's a double-edged sword, and with too much risk orientation, we can engage in very reckless behaviors without proper evaluation of the potential consequences, maybe like Elon Musk buying Twitter. Anyway, I'm not going to get too political here. To use a different example, if someone wants to invest, but they have a low risk orientation, they might only feel capable of using things like a bank savings account, which will always earn less money than even inflation. An appropriately risked person probably would be having a balanced portfolio with some money in the stock market, getting like average returns using ETFs, maybe some other asset classes, and someone too risky would be maybe putting all of their money into the shares of like a single company, or maybe putting all of their money into crypto, for example. And now the Stoics would approach risk orientation by just acknowledging the unpredictability of external events, but at the same time encouraging action in alignment with one's values and reason. They advocated for a balance between caution and courage. taking wise risks, but also preparing for and accepting whatever outcomes may arise. As Seneca said, "He who fears death will never do anything worth of a man who is alive." And so we shouldn't be ruled by our fears, but we also should at least be mindful of them and be sensible. And then in the second half of the challenge quadrant, we have our learning orientation. This refers to the desire to grow from every experience, especially challenges. It's an attitude that embraces lifelong learning, seeking feedback, and viewing setbacks as valuable lessons. Without a high orientation for learning, we might view a failure as a negative reflection on our own self rather than as a learning opportunity. We might stick to things that we already know to avoid the discomfort of learning a new process. We might even ignore feedback or constructive criticism due to a fixed mindset. Now, in the modern world, it does seem like there are endless new things to learn. But if we have a fixed mindset and we fail to learn like new tools or systems that are really useful, we will fall behind. A measure of potential for success today is not necessarily how much we know, but how quickly we can learn. Someone who can embrace a struggle to learn a new technology or new skills will always do well in life. The Stoic thought learning was essential. They recognized that wisdom comes from continuous adaptation and improvement of oneself through experiences. Seneca said that difficulties strengthen the mind, as does labor to the body. And I think the Stoics' view really summed up the challenge quadrant in general, as they were always embracing the inherent uncertainties of life as an opportunity for self-improvement. They would always encourage taking risks that were in accord with reason and just learning from every experience they could to become a more virtuous and a more resilient person. And I think that is just the way to go through life. Hence why I run the Growth Mindset podcast. Anyway, moving on to the final quadrant of confidence, which I'm very excited for, but it is time for an ad break, so bear with me.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
Okay, welcome back to the podcast. We are going to the final quadrant of confidence. I definitely think there's a strong link here between confidence and the last topic of learning and challenge. When we have confidence in our ability to learn things, we can commit to mastering a new skill with regular practice. If we doubt our ability to learn anything new, we don't even try. So confidence is of course essential for the last skill, but of course it's more than that. Joan of Arc changed the entire course of history and the 100 Years' War going on between France and England due to her confidence. She was born a peasant French girl, but she somehow convinced the entire French royalty to let her lead their armies against the English, where she just continuously destroyed the English in every single battle, despite the fact she was just a French peasant girl with no military training and just a few strong weird visions, which probably came from some form of undiagnosed disease. So confidence can be astoundingly powerful outside of our ability to learn things. And of course, confidence has two sections again. That is confidence in our abilities and interpersonal confidence. So confidence in abilities refers to the belief in one's skills and competence to complete tasks and meet challenges effectively. This self-assurance allows individuals to approach tasks with a positive mindset and a can-do attitude. Without confidence, we'll be plagued by self-doubt and have a tendency to underestimate our abilities. We'll hesitate to take on new challenges just due to a fear of inadequacy. However, we can also be overconfident, which might lead us to be completely unprepared to things that we take on and make very avoidable mistakes. In the recent episode I did around how to increase our intelligence and wisdom, I spoke about the importance of thought cycles and mental efforts in areas we want to improve, even if they don't come naturally to us, but also if it is an area that does come naturally to us. I gave the example of the fact that I used to be really good at maths as a kid, and I was always helping the girl next to me with her homework. Then she beat me in exams because I was really confident. I didn't revise, yet she worked on her abilities persistently with consistent effort and actually was better at the end of the day after a year of working hard. Now, the Stoics here would advise that confidence should be rooted in a realistic assessment of one's abilities and the understanding that competence grows through effort and experience and not by avoiding challenges, or in my case, avoiding homework. Confidence is basically a stack of evidence saying you are who you say you are, so you have to do the work to be the person you want to be. Then we move on to interpersonal confidence. That is the level of confidence one has in social situations and interactions, including the ability to influence others and get our own ideas adopted. You can certainly see this in negotiation. When a person with confidence enters negotiations with a clear sense of what they want, they can communicate their needs assertively whilst also being open to compromise. However, without confidence, someone might either give in too easily or push too hard without considering the other party's position. Stoicism here would encourage individuals to focus on the intent behind any social interactions and the virtue of their own contributions, rather than just seeking approval or fearing rejection. In the confidence section in general, Stoicism would emphasize the importance of self-awareness, continuous self-improvement, and just the courage to engage with others authentically and virtuously. Confidence in the Stoic sense is not just a feeling, but a reflection of one's commitment to personal growth and ethical conduct on both self-reliance and social interactions. And I think a great story from history that demonstrated brilliant interpersonal confidence, but also just commitment, control, and challenge is from Nelson Mandela. He was a beacon of resilience and leadership, exemplified by just pure mental toughness. In the face of the apartheid's brutal regime, Mandela really had an unwavering commitment to pushing racial equality. He endured 27 years of imprisonment, but kept his dignity, and his control over his emotions were exemplary, and he transformed anger into a force for peaceful change. Mandela's confidence in his vision for a free South Africa inspired millions, not just in South Africa, but worldwide, and it also required an incredible social influence and confidence to persuade both sides of a divided nation to empathize and trust each other. And so he really confronted the immense challenges of leading a divided nation just head on. He championed reconciliation over retribution and guided South Africa through the historic transition with just extraordinary grace and a steadfast determination. So hopefully, now that you've listened to the 4 different elements of mental toughness, you can understand more the complete picture of mental toughness and how useful it is for someone to embody all of those qualities. I also hope that whilst you are listening, you are able to think about your own performance in each area and maybe relate to which side of the coin you fell on each of those 8 components. To build mental toughness is, of course, the same as building a growth mindset or any skill. It requires dedication to practice and reflection without giving up. And you can look into each section with detail. If you want to think about your emotional and life control, observe how often you become overwhelmed by circumstances or when you stay in charge of a situation. Consider if you recover quickly from setbacks or where they derail your mood and productivity. When you think about your abilities in the commitment quadrant, consider your track record when it comes to goals. Do you see them through to completion, or do they start strong and tend to kind of fade away and perhaps get forgotten or something? When a new goal gets tough, like New Year's resolutions or a project that starts facing challenges, does it still get done even when it becomes tedious? Now, you don't need to be a robot that completes every single task, but you do need to understand why some tasks get done and not others. And then look at ways to break down larger goals into concrete, achievable small tasks and focus on discipline first. That means sticking to routines and schedules, even if you're not in the mood. Count just attending the gym as a win, even if you don't have a big workout. Now, when we look at the challenge quadrant, you might want to recall your reactions to unexpected changes, not just if you can take on big challenges, but if you can deal with new challenges that you didn't plan for. Do you approach them with curiosity, with an open mind, or do they come across threatening to you or stressful? Consider how much you value from experiences, especially the difficult ones. Remember that difficulty is the teacher. So seek out new experiences outside of your comfort zone and embrace the classic growth mindset mantra that challenges are opportunities. And then finally, in the confidence quadrant, look at situations where you really have to rely on your abilities, even if those abilities aren't amazing. Do you avoid them and come up with excuses? Do you shy away from things like public speaking, or can you trust in your skills and your judgment? Or maybe even do you try and do everything by yourself and avoid getting any feedback or help? That might also be a sign of lack of confidence if you're not able to take that on. And then for all areas, of course, having a reflective practice such as journaling or having something more specific for that area will really help. Let's say you do want to be a more confident speaker, you could join local groups like Toastmasters, where you'll specifically track your progress of speaking, which I might also add that going to Toastmasters to work on your public speaking is a really good investment that anyone can do for their professional life and general confidence and personal life. Total side note, but probably worth mentioning. Then, in general, another useful thing, as always, when it comes to growth mindset is seeking feedback as much as possible. And not just asking them like easy questions to answer, like, was I good at this or something? Ask people deeper questions. If I ask anyone I know if they liked my podcast, they will just say, yeah, it's great. If I ask them specifically, what was the best thing about an episode? What could I have improved in that episode? What were the bad bits that I should just get rid of in that episode? I'll get a very different and a very useful response compared to just the general, yeah, it was good. So really remember to ask more detailed feedback. Now, another thing you can do is to seek professional guidance in the form of coaching, therapy, or you can also do like a more organized coaching with a friend who you respect. So I have a weekly call with a friend that runs a company where we both hold each other accountable for our goals, we brainstorm problems, and we give each other feedback. And then the last tip here that I would say is exercise. That might sound odd. You could also use an immersive hobby, but I think sport is actually very important. It's not only a great way to switch off, it just provides some emotional distance from any difficulties in life. It gives you a sense of peace to process difficult emotions, to come back stronger, having gained some perspective. And yes, also doing things like music, art, dance are really great. But I would say that something solitary like walking, running, surfing, cycling, going to the gym is epic for both the body and the mind. There's something about physical movement that helps you look on the positive side of things. And then also there's something about having just physical strength and capability that just affects your mind and helps build a sense of resilience when you just feel strong as a person. Now, of course, you don't need to go over the top and start taking steroids to feel stronger. That would be too much. But you get my point. Like, being healthy actually helps the mind be healthy, which of course helps mental toughness. Now, with all that summarized, I think it is important to note that it is normal to have areas that are stronger than other areas, and that those areas can change over time due to our life experiences and, of course, to targeted effort to improve things. Like I said at school where I was really good at maths, I was terrible at speaking. I had a lisp, I was terrified of doing any form of public speaking, and I actually failed that section of my English completely. Yet now I'm someone that's done stand-up comedy and runs a podcast. So with effort, things can change even if you think you're weak at them. You just have to remember that building mental toughness is a gradual process, and it involves consistent practice and self-reflection. Nelson Mandela did have 27 years in prison to work on his self-reflection, which in many ways he considered a gift. Now, hopefully you don't need that long, but if you can squeeze in half an hour maybe, sometimes even just 10 minutes a day, just some time to reflect, it will give you a giant boost. And on that, I really hope you enjoyed the episode, and to directly take my own advice, please do let me know what you liked about the episode, what could be improved, and what maybe should have been removed because it just wasn't very good. I do read all the comments on Spotify and YouTube, and you're welcome to email me at growthmindsetpodcast@gmail.com. Now, if you do happen to know anybody into psychology and mental toughness, you are, of course, most welcome to share this episode with them to school them a little bit more on the area. I thought it was fascinating. Hopefully you did too. And of course, remember that life is to be enjoyed, so do not keep enjoyment locked behind a list of goals to achieve before you start finally enjoying your life. It's about the journey. Enjoy it whilst you're doing it. So be kind to yourself, and whilst you're at it, be kind to someone else too.